Famous for its safaris and large game parks, Kenya is less well known for its coastline. However, its 370 miles of coast from Tanzania in the south to Somalia in the north offer many natural wonders and adventures of all types. On the unspoiled island of Pate, where Somalian pirate boats still attack, we begin our discovery of the many different fishing styles in Kenya. On our way to Pate Island, we first pass through Lamu, the Swahili trade hub conquered in the 18th century by the Sultans of Oman. Lamu Island, much like its neighbors Manda and Pate, has no roads and no vehicles. Boats are the sole means of transportation. Off the tip of Pate Island, 5 hours from Lamu, in the heart of Eastern Africa's second largest mangrove forests, Faza and Kisingitini's population of 15,000 barely scrapes a living from its fishing. There are over 12 different methods for catching a large variety of sea life. Baka Ali is 48 years old. The son of a fisherman of Bajuni descent, he has been fishing for almost 25 years. Like most weekday mornings, blessed by Allah, Baka is going fishing. Baka and his crew of 10 are not the only ones to try their luck fishing today. The boat starts out while the sun's early morning rays rise above the horizon. Baka's boat is called a dhow. This elongated craft, made from mangrove trees and fitted with a triangular-shaped sail, is still made following traditional methods passed down by Baka's ancestors. These sailors originally came from Oman and Yemen and were proud men who colonized the coast of Kenya and baptized it Swahili, the Arabic word for the coast. Although a good fisherman, Baka is first and foremost an expert navigator. A most necessary prerequisite in this maze of islands, reefs and sandbars that make navigating a complex task. He must have a thorough knowledge of the changing currents, the height of the tides and other factors, like today's kaskazi, the tropical wind that's blowing earlier than expected. It has pushed Baka's boat into shallow water, and with a low tide coming in, Baka must maneuver quickly to avoid being trapped and find a passage towards deeper water in order to set sail again. Baka, Muhammad, Bashir and the others fish at low tide when the water's not too deep and stay within the coral reef that protects them from the deep-sea waves. They use a 150-meter net attached at each end to a 500-meter rope. This type of net is called a juya in Swahili. Baka has chosen today's fishing area. He drops off 4 of his men in the water at one end of the rope. Baka knows quite a bit about the many different species of fish that can be found in these parts: cobia, snappers, rock cod, stingrays, barracuda, and catfish. As the dhows sail slowly along, the rope is slowly let out to its full length. And then the net is thrown into the water. The holes in the net measure 6 centimeters. Its central part has a pouch-like area which traps the fish. There are 2 divers, one for each side of the net. Their work is essential if they're to have a successful catch. They have to keep the net from getting caught on coral or tangled in weeds on the seabed. The net is going to harvest approximately 1 square kilometre of sea, forcing the fish towards the trap in the centre. Once the 1,000 metres of rope are in place, all 11 fishermen are needed to pull the net back to the boat. Moreover, today, they have only 1 hour before the tide comes in and ruins their efforts. 4 men on each side, the water up to their waists, struggle against the strong currents. Their joint efforts with those of the divers are now paying off. One of the youngest joins the 2 ends of the rope. The fish are caught inside. The rope is then shaken in the water to prevent the frightened fish from escaping through the rear part of the circle formed by the net. The thousands of meters of rope are slowly drawn towards the boat, now anchored nearby. The moment of truth has arrived. Baka and his men, engrossed in the task, make a final effort to drive the fish into the trap. Today the catch is small. Too much wind, too many waves, murky water, and fish that would rather shelter behind the coral or inside the mangrove swamps. But anyway, it's time to head back to Kisingitini, almost 2 hours away. Heading against the wind is not going to make sailing easy and will force Baka's boat to tack. In Kisingitini, every other man is a fisherman. Fish sell for 30 Kenyan shillings a kilo, the equivalent of 30 English pence or 50 US cents. Each fisherman keeps a part of his catch to feed his own family. What remains is sold to one of the 2 or 3 trading boats that buy the day's catch and keep it fresh on ice, before selling it in Faza, or better yet, Lamu. In Kisingitini, there's no electricity, nor facilities for drying or keeping the fish refrigerated. And since there are no natural springs on the island and no farming, fishing is the only way to make a living.
Was I disappointed by yesterday's catch? Yes, of course. The sea was too muddy and the spot I chose was disappointing. We didn't have much luck. Fishing is a gamble. Some days are great, and some days we have a small catch or nothing at all. But really, yesterday the sea was just too rough.
Now, tell us about your record catch.
It was during the rainy season. We were about 15. We went to the coral reefs. The tide was at a perfect level. That day we caught a lot of fish, 150 kilos. It was less difficult than these days. I prefer fishing with a large team, all able and willing to work hard. We like to catch a lot of fish, and the more we are, the more we catch. No, it wasn't that difficult for us to pull in the heavy net back to the boat. The problem was more with the rain and wind, which were coming in quickly and made the sea extremely rough and dangerous. We did manage to make it safely back to port, though. For now, fishing is my only way of life. If I could find something else, of course I'd change.
What are Hashim, Haider, Mohammed and his friends looking for at low tide near the edges of the mangroves? Crabs, seashells, small fish? No, they're fishing for large, white, snail-like creatures, which live in the sand near the coral reefs. They're called sea cucumbers. They find them at low tide, or in water up to 5 meters deep. The fishermen of Majumwali near Kizingitini have become sea cucumber specialists over the last 20 years. Snorkeling is a rather recent method, used only in the last 5 years. Divers are often trained from an early age to stay more than 2 hours in the water, surfacing, they claim, every 3 minutes. A number of them, diving to even greater depths, have damaged their eardrums and developed hearing problems. Today, the fishing has been successful. Sea cucumbers sell for 120 to 180 Kenyan shillings a kilo, 4 to 6 times more than fish. Hassan Ali buys and processes sea cucumbers, coming directly to the source to get his supply.
That's right, we fish for sea cucumbers. It's become a part of our lives. For a long time, no one would bother with them. Then one day the Japanese came. They told us all about the sea cucumber and taught us how to prepare them. Today we fish for cucumbers, sell them to the Japanese, and they eat them. You see, you make a hole and empty the stomach. You boil them, leave them on the sand for one night, and then boil them again. And then you take them out and dry them again for several days.
Hey, Malaysia.
So Hassan Ali guts the sea cucumbers, boils them several times, and several days later, after drying them, gets the result of his work. He makes 1,500 Kenyan shillings, about 15 English pounds or 21 US dollars, for each kilo of sea cucumber he sells to the Mombasa dealer. And that's how Pate Island sea cucumber finds its way onto the tables of gourmets in Singapore, Shanghai, Tahiti and Tokyo, seasoned with lime, coconut milk, salt or chives. Bon appétit. Travelling south towards NGomeni, other wild mangrove swamps also offer unique fishing. The village of Kibauni is made up of scattered groups of huts belonging to the quiet yet capable fishermen of the Baroness tribe. Susu and Sami fish for crab in the mangrove swamps that surround the village. Since they have no fish today for making their crab bait, they will use pieces of raw chicken. With nets, bait, and large baskets, they walk to the part of the swamp that seems the most promising, because of the outgoing tide. When the tide is very low, some spots can be found crawling with crabs of all sizes, all hungry for a piece of meat or fish. Unlike other mangrove swamps, this one is not infested with snakes and stingrays, so the boys can walk barefoot in the mud. The two boys have a very simple technique. A stick made from mangrove wood is stuck into the muddy floor of the seabed. The bait, tied to the stick on a cotton line, is then thrown into the water. After a short wait, the first crab strikes. Sami goes into action. The crab has taken the bait. Now he has to place his feet and body in such a way as not to scare the crab away with his shadow. The first catch is a good size. Unfortunately, the method is not foolproof. The less hungry crabs prefer to let go of the bait when they feel the tug on the line. The crabs are kept alive until they are sold to the dealer who buys the catch of the day, and finally to the chef who cooks and serves them. Foreigners and tourists make up the majority of the crab eaters in Malindi, more so than the Kenyans themselves. Other fishermen on the Kenyan coast use large drift nets called jarifa in Swahili. Yunus and his crew are from Kisingitini as well. During the dry season, from November to March, they live and fish in Malindi, where an organized market and larger demand guarantee prices that are 2 or 3 times higher than those on Pate Island. The first catch is a stingray. Yunus snaps off its stinger to make it harmless. The jarifa nets, which are left drifting approximately 100 feet beneath the surface, are an hour-and-a-half sail from Malindi and are checked every other day or so. The fish are taken out of the net one by one. Yunus and his crew also use long lines fitted with 15 to 20 hooks baited with dead fish. The long line is weighted with several large stones and lowered 100 feet into the sea. The hooks are checked daily, fish are removed and bait replaced. Today's catch is impressive. Rays, snappers, small sharks and catfish. Before leaving, the jarifa net is lowered again. A boy with a flag marks the spot.
Wasafisha hapo hiyo au papa safisha hilo.
So you know, what did you catch today?
Yeah, I caught 7 shark.
7 sharks?
Yeah, 7 shark. This one is a big shark among of those 7. Yeah.
How many kilos?
And it's around 15 kilo. Yeah, around 15 kilo. Last year we caught a big shark around 200 kilo. And that day it was last year, it was May, when we went to see the long line, and for the good day we caught that shark. We tried to pull him inside the boat, and because it's a big one, we are defeated to put inside, and we use our power to drag it up to the seashore. Yeah. In fact, I like fishing because it is my hobby. Also, it is my father's job. There was a fisherman, and me, I'm a fisherman. Yeah. Often, man, safisha hapo fisha.
Kata mboga batatu bwana. Sana sana sana. Tutakutomea rachi. Wewe size yake wewe. Wapi mwenye kapu?
Unlike other Africans, the Griama, the biggest tribe in Malindi, like shark meat. Yunus will make up to 100 Kenyan shillings, £1 British or $1.5 US per kilo. Since catfish sells for 3 times less, he'd rather bring that home to his wife, who prepares his favourite recipe by steaming it in its juices. Whereas Kenya was famous for big game hunting as early as the beginning of the century, we had to wait for the 1950s and Ernest Hemingway's expedition off the coast of Malindi and Watamu before hearing about game fishing there.
Morning, lads.
Ian and Kevin are English. They come from the Portsmouth area. Ian discovered sport angling only 5 years ago. Over the last 3 years, he's shared his new passion with friend and business partner Kevin.
But if you get there before me, yeah.
Today, they're heading out to the Neptune, Malindi's most powerful 280 horsepower boat. It's also one of the best equipped, with 8 lines. The day's just begun, and this is the first fish. It's a nice bonito that will be used as bait. In fact, the day's devoted to live baiting at different boat speeds for the different size fish. A second battle starts shortly. This one is much more difficult. Angus, Neptune's skipper, gives the word. It's a shark. Sharks usually come up rapidly on the bait. It can be a brutal struggle. The shark can swallow the bait and take off with yards and yards of line, or he can hesitate, nose the bait and play with it for a while. You have to wait a long time before hooking him. This time, Ian hooks it quickly.
Reel against the clip comes up the top. Now the trace, be careful of that trace all the time. Huh?
The shark suddenly dives down to the bottom. It's a male blacktip. Ian, Angus and Saidi must act quickly and keep the 50-pound line taut.
Not too much down.
They have to prevent the shark from wrapping the line round its abrasive body and breaking it, or from diving under the boat. Because of its razor-sharp teeth and its strength, even when out of the water, no chances are taken. Angus knocks it out. The shark is too big for the sack, so Saidi and Festus tie him alongside the stern.
Good fish.
Right. So your first one?
No, I've caught sharks before. Yeah. It's a very funny feeling. It's you against the fish, and if you fish at home, you catch very small fish, and it's still a pleasure to catch very small fish. But if you come to a country like this, you have the opportunity of catching a very large fish, and once you've caught a very large fish, something happens to your heart, and you think, I'd like to get a bigger one and a bigger one. And this is the bug. This is why you come back year after year after year. The very first sensation is when you hold the rod and you bend, and when you know you've hooked it, you have adrenaline running all through your body, and you feel your heart, and it's a rush. It's a rush, that's what it is. It's good. Very good.
Check this one.
On the Neptune, each ring indicates a bite. It's a good day for tuna and bonitos. That means that their predators, billfish, aren't very far off. Sailfish, broad-billed swordfish, blue, black and striped marlin exist in large numbers in Kenyan waters. Kenya is a good spot for anglers. Several international IGFA records have been set here. Female black and blue marlin can weigh up to 1,000 pounds, whereas the average weight of a marlin is 200 pounds. No luck. A marlin leaves his teeth marks on a live bait. Barely out of the water, the live bonitos are prepared for baiting. One hook in the mouth and another in the skin of the back. and then tossed back into the water.
We have now a new bait, the live bait that's gone down to the bottom.
It's for shark?
Shark, marlin, Kamambezi, anything, wahoo, kingfish.
So this one, when it's live, it's better when it's live?
Alive, yeah, because it swims and it's a very natural bait. And you can, the fish, if you have a big fish around, like a marlin or a shark, you would prefer to have that. That's the best bait we can have, so maybe.
Talk about a coincidence, Ian has a bite. He's hooked another fish.
Nyama mzuri Bob. Umejipaka mafundi sasa. Kumpandisha sasa. Okay. Ndo sema naye mwenyewe. Msimamo.
Try and release him, okay?
Okay, come here.
Leta tutagi.
Nenda juu.
Ndoano sija machunga ndoano.
Shika. Yes. Nenda side.
After tagging, the Karambesi is eased into the water to be released.
Probably you can't really tell at this stage whether he'll go or not, really, don't you? That's the problem.
Yeah, but he'll float. He can't be full of eggs.
Yeah, it's okay.
Is he going to make it? This pelagic fish has to keep swimming so that the water irrigates its gills.
Yeah. It's a Kamambezi, which is a giant trevally. They are. There's lots of them around here. But they're trying to preserve the stocks of them. So to tag and release is good.
Well
done, my man.
Yeah.
We come to get the glass of wine tonight. Your hand will be shaking. Good.
The high season lasts from November to March, during the northeast monsoon, accompanied by the Kaskazi wind and a powerful current coming from Somalia. Rich nutritional substances are collected from the tip of Arabia, carried to the coast of Kenya, where they attract large numbers of fish. A promising start for the second day. Kevin has hooked a sailfish that just jumped from the water several times and shook its head. This is the way sailfish try to free themselves if they're not properly hooked. There are many sailfish in this part of the Indian Ocean. They usually weigh from 65 to 110 pounds and reach 2 meters in length, but the largest weigh more than 175 pounds and measure over 3 meters in length. They swim at almost 50 knots, folding their majestic sail-like fin into their backs. They like to feed on the surface or at medium depth. Unlike a shark, a sailfish is not pulled out of the water by a gaff, but by its bill. It's a way of showing respect for this amazing creature. Sadly, this one has been hooked in the side and is dead.
Well, I thought either it was big or there was something wrong because it started to fight and then all of a sudden it stopped and it felt like a real heavy lead weight, and the guys have just said it went right down to the bottom, and so we've pulled it up from the bottom of the seabed, and but we pulled it up through the middle, so it was just like a dead weight coming up all the way through the water, and that's why we struggled with that. Shame really, is you don't like that to happen. It's much better if you get it hooked properly and can fight it, pull it up and tag it and release it. It's much better. It's a bit of a disappointment in some ways, a bit sad, I don't like doing that. But okay, that's the name of the game, isn't it? That'll go back to shore and be sold at the market tonight. And, at least somebody will enjoy it. But I don't want too many of those today. It's much better when it's a good sport fish and it jumps around and then you bring it alongside and then say thanks and it goes off. So, there you go. That's what happens.
The next catch is a colourful yellow and green dorado that Saidi and Festus add to the sack with the sailfish. It's Ian's turn to fight a billfish as a second sailfish is hooked. This one is securely hooked in the mouth. Ian and Kevin, like many sport anglers, prefer releasing billfish if they've been hooked correctly. Billfish are tagged to identify them, just like we tattoo our pets. The number of billfish in this part of the ocean is monitored. This guarantees their survival.
It's okay?
Yes.
Okay, be careful.
Tagging and releasing is easier said than done. This one's put up such a fight that Saidi isn't sure he'll be able to remove the hook. Success at last. The sailfish is released.
35 kilos. And he lives to fight another day, maybe. Good.
Neptune can't drop anchor in Malindi because of the tide. Instead, it will anchor overnight in Watamu Cove. The anglers will return to Malindi by car.
Fishing in Kenya, I think, is still one of the very few places in the world which is practically guaranteed that you will catch a billfish. And there's not many places in the world that can boast that you'll catch a billfish. If you see the season averages at the end of the season, they are really taking a billfish every day.
What is your favorite species to fight with?
I think a marlin. They are very exciting. They jump. They give you a very hard time. They don't want to be caught. They're very difficult to catch. And when you catch one and you're lucky enough to land one or tag one, it stays with you forever, I think. I like to fish light tackle, as light as possible, because it's more exciting, you feel more of the fish, and it takes a bit longer, it's a bit harder work, but it does give you an impression that you're doing actually a good job, really. This was 3 years ago, fishing with Angus. We had 14 sailfish in one day. 14 in one day between three of us, and 2 striped marlin. That was 1 day's catch. We released about 9 of those sailfish. The other ones were badly hooked, and we brought them home. But that was the best day we had over there. It was just one of these very, very special days where we were just very happy, and everyone was catching fish. So we actually brought home 14 flags on the boat. The strengths are really he fishes here every day, so he knows the climate. I come here for 4 days once a year. So what's happening out there, I don't know. You rely on him to know where the fish are, what baits they're taking, what lures they're taking, what technique to fish you, and you come here and you rely on the.
The largest fish ever caught in Kenya is a 1,247-pound blue marlin, caught by a German angler on Angus Paul's Neptune in 1997.
I've been a professional skipper for, I think, must be 19 years now. But I've been fishing all my life because my father started fishing here many years ago, and I've grown up fishing. We're finding new areas, we're exploring new places. North Kenya banks. The last 5 years we've just discovered the North Kenya banks. Broadbill fishing also. It's only just been discovered, and Kenya is one of the best places in the world now for broadbill swordfish. So it is getting stronger and stronger and better. Yeah?
What is your relationship with local fishermen?
We have a good relationship with local fishermen. In as much we help them out with all the old line off the reels. We've often had to go out at night to look for them if they lost, things like that. We do have a good relationship with them. Because I was brought up with them, you know. I've been here all my life, I was brought up with them. We do have a good, I know them all, so it's a good relationship.
Sail or motor, line or net, traditional or high-tech communication equipment, fishing is still fishing. Sport anglers and local fishermen share the same methods, types of bait and lures for catching fish. The real difference is in the size and quality of the boats and the equipment they use.
Think about deep-sea fishing with the big engine boat compared to the techniques that are used by local fishermen.
I think it's horses for courses. If you imagine the 800-pound marlin that was caught the other night, if you caught that on a very small boat, you'd probably be somewhere off the coast of India by now, which is a bit like Old Man of the Sea. I mean, Ernest Hemingway wrote something about that, being dragged around the ocean for a couple of days. I think if you are seriously going to tackle big fish, you need to go with a serious boat. And really, the boats that are supplied down here can all handle very, very good fish.
From March to August, Kenya's big game fishing comes to a halt for lack of clients, even if the season is still open and there are plenty of fish. During peak season, big game anglers come from Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, South Africa or Zimbabwe, competing each weekend in numerous tournaments. Competitions are held 1 week in Watamu and 1 week in Malindi, where this 98-pound marlin was accounted for. The largest competition of the season is held in Kilifi. This year, no less than 37 boats are competing from right along the coast, from Mombasa to Malindi. The majority of skippers are English and Kenyan. A few come from Italy, Germany and South Africa. Kenyans or foreigners, it makes no difference. It's the event that counts.
5.2.
Although sport angling stops in March, traditional fishing continues all year round. Except for coastal areas near Pate Island and the cities of Lamu and Mombasa, fish stocks are still abundant in Kenya. National marine parks have been created in Kiunga, Malindi, Watamu and Pemba to ensure protection and reproduction of numerous species and of the coral reefs. Fishing activities in Kenya still remain on quite a small scale. This explains why so many fish are able to reach such a remarkable size.